About to leave, already packing.
Hey Wellness Warriors, Coach Mandy here from Altered Self Wellness, and today we are going to talk about self-love and cultivating compassion for ourselves. Don't be put off by the word self. If you hear the word self and you're thinking this is selfish or narcissistic, you got it wrong. So bear with me and I will kind of go over what they are and why it's so important to incorporate these practice and this mindset into your life. Okay, self-love is actually unconditional positive regard for oneself. Okay, this is just being an inner ally versus an inner enemy. Now, if you're one of those people that had it modeled to you as a child and it's always been, you're already an inner ally, this is going to seem extra, kind of over the top or unnecessary. But for the rest of you that at a young age, like myself, became an inner enemy. You know, I just couldn't make sense of what was going on in my surroundings. So I turned it all inward and blamed myself and disconnected from my body, my mind, my emotions, and became this inner enemy, this harsh, mean critic of myself. For those of you that have kind of cultivated an inner enemy, this is where self-love comes into play. Now, in my life, I have this contrasted all the time because my husband, whom I love dearly, is an inner ally for himself. And so for me, I've had that modeled in my life now for 12 years. Yes, we've been together for 12 years. And it's beautiful. I mean, rarely do I see my husband make a mistake and think he's a failure or beat himself up. He's very connected to his humanity, like, well, it's a common mistake that anyone could make, and this is what I'm going to do different next time. And he's just kind and supportive. Practicing self-love and cultivating self-love is really about being a friend, being kind, and having that positive regard for yourself. It's not selfish, or it's not a bad thing. It's a good thing. Unfortunately, if it's not something you've cultivated or hasn't become a part of your life or practice, it's something that, like for myself, I have to work at. It's something that I have to do extra as an adult. Yes. And it's getting easier. At first it was uncomfortable. I was really afraid that people would think I was being selfish but it's actually just been beautiful in my life as a recovering perfectionist and people pleaser and all things real negative, actually. Yeah, so I didn't become, as a child, I didn't become an inner ally. I was an inner enemy. That's not my fault. That's just the way that I wired when things were going on in my childhood. However, as an adult, it is my responsibility to take what was given in my life and make something beautiful out of it. And I own that. I do that. Okay, so I need to do a little extra to increase my perception and value of myself. And I will, so that I am well. You know, I own the responsibility to keep myself well. Instead of being angry or blaming or looking at why or where it came from, I just gotta work with what I got, guys. So if you're building an inner ally, girl, I get you. The act of self-compassion is what someone does when they are an inner ally, when they do love themselves. It is being kind, supportive, and nurturing to yourself when you're suffering. When I said suffering, how many of you guys thought of this big, huge, like catastrophic Jesus on the cross type suffering? If you did, that's pretty normal. Suffering is really just any kind of emotional pain that someone experiences. So when I use the word suffering, if that's too big of a word, break it down to emotional pain. So how can we be kind, supportive, and nurturing to ourselves when we're in pain or when we are suffering is the next step. So the three components of self-compassion are mindfulness, kindness, and our humanity. Connecting to my humanity just means that I am flawed and I am a human and I'm not the only one who's suffering with this. For whatever reason, once I come out of self, there is no more suffering. Then it's about the mindfulness, becoming aware, like what is going on internally. And what I'll usually find is that my thoughts are echoing like a harsh critic, something like you're stupid, you're worthless, you didn't do this right, everyone's gonna know you're a total failure. I mean, I may be exaggerating to make the point, but maybe not. I have heard this time and time again from women that I've worked with and from my own mind, just these harsh, critical words. So the first step for the kindness part is matching our internal dialogue to that we would give someone else that we love when they're suffering. Never is my daughter hurting or in pain and I'm like, you need to just figure it out because otherwise you're a failure. You know, my best friend, I would never say that. My worst enemy, I would never say those kinds of things. So that's the mindfulness part for me. Like, what am I thinking about myself in this situation? And how can I reframe it in a way that is kind, nurturing, and supportive? It's okay to make mistakes, and what can we do differently? The biggest one that I've been loving and I shared with you guys in a different video is the hand over my heart that in my body feels like kindness and support. And then I just ask myself, how can I be kind in this situation? It matching that internal dialogue to the words that we would give anyone else that we feel compassion for. So a lot of people think that compassion is weak or selfish, and it actually has no ties to narcissism whatsoever like self-esteem does. Self-esteem is based off doing things and doing them well. So anytime you fail or are not able to do things, your esteem kind of dips. So it's this ebb and flow kind of fair weather friend. I'm a big believer in if you want esteem, do esteemable things, but there have been times in my life where I couldn't do things, as you guys know. Self-compassion has all the benefits of reduced anxiety, reduced depression, increased body image and perspective and happiness. But it's not fair weather. It's not something that you have to be doing anything to practice in your life. All you need to practice self-compassion is to be human and flawed. So this has been a missing component in my life, and I've been bringing this in and teaching it and bringing it in and practicing it, and have found it to be a beautiful tool that I want to share with you guys. Leave me a comment and let me know, does your internal dialogue match that of how you would support someone else who is suffering or in emotional pain? If not, I think it is a great time to start practicing self-compassion in your daily routine. Okay guys, thank you so much for allowing me to take up some of your time today and share this little pearl of wisdom.